magnificent pastor. I can say a few things myself. Amen. It goes way back and it'll expose folks to how old we really are. If the ships of your life are tossed on the sea of strife, and you need someone, and if your house is not a home, and you feel
where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy. Oh, we're live again. Good afternoon. That clip that you saw, we're keeping the focus in Harlem, and that was the going home service for Pastor Henry V. Harrison, the brother of the incomparable Sheila Berry, who's my longtime producer. Pastor Harrison was a fixture in the Harlem community. He was someone with extraordinary gifts, and the biggest gift he had of them all was the gift of love. And he shared that love with anyone and everyone, so anyone around him was made better. We didn't get a chance to air that clip when I wanted to air it. Fortunately, my other superstar producer, Veronica Kitt, shot the going home service at Canaan Baptist Church, and we were able to air some of that on Community Cop, which was fantastic. I don't like following Veronica because it's hard hustling. It's like following James Brown. But as the credits at the end showed categorically, we love you, Pastor Henry V. Harrison, and we miss you, and we're better that you were here, and we're going to try to be as strong as you made us when you were here. With that being said, there's an election coming up in Harlem. It's, well, September 12th is primary day, and there are a lot of city council seats up in the air. And the former city council member, Inez Dickens, moved on to the State Assembly, leaving her seat open. State Assembly, is that correct?
Yes.
Right, leaving her seat open. And we have one of the people who is running for that seat. It's not vacant because they had a special election. However, now it's for all the marbles, all the chips. And how many people are running?
Well, there are quite a few, but in the primary, six.
In the primary, six.
Democratic primary.
The Democratic primary, which is September 12th. And that's councilmanic district, what is it? Nine. I've been talking to a gentleman, you might as well meet him. He is running for city council in councilmanic district 9. He is Julius Tajiddin. And we're gonna pick his brain, find out what prompted him to run for this vacant seat. And well, okay. You're right, it's not vacant. See, that's why I got him, because I make mistakes. But you know that, you watch. It's not vacant as of this moment, but now it's the real election and everybody is running.
The 4-year term.
The 4-year term. With that, my brother Julius, it's a pleasure to have you here on 30 Frames a Second.
My pleasure.
Excellent.
First, I want to give my condolences to your producer
Right.
about the loss of her brother. So, but there was a special election back in February of this year, and it was to finish the term, the rest of Inez Dickens' term.
Right.
Which by the time that Bill Perkins got sworn in, because he was the winner, we're only talking 9 months. So really from about March to December, he's finishing Inez Dickens' term, but he is considered the incumbent.
He is the, right, well,
you know,
yeah.
Right now. So I'm running for this seat. Actually, I ran for city council in District 7 back in 2009. In 2013, the city council lines were redrawn. So where I live is now in District 9. So I feel at this time, this is the right thing for the community. It's always with the community in mind. And I've done a lot of work as a community leader, and my record is, it speaks for itself. I've gained a lot of benefits for the community. I think that the community is better because of me. And at this juncture in my life, and with what we're facing right now, we need someone who's not afraid and will just lead in the best interest of, you know, his community.
We're going to get into the specific needs of councilmanic District 9 because you have to preface when you give a district number because they all have different numbers depending on the job.
Actually, every seat is up for re-election this year.
Wow.
Yeah, all 51 seats.
Wow. Give me some view into what District 9 encompasses. What areas it?
The highest point goes a little past 155th.
Okay.
Because you know.
Past the
well, yeah, because wrangle houses, and so it goes that far up. So I think that could reach through Harlem River Drive houses.
Right.
It can go as high as 157th. The lowest point can go as, it goes down to
what avenue would that be?
McCombs and Harlem River Drive. So
okay.
Right.
Okay.
The lowest point is 106. So if you go down Fifth Avenue and then you turn on 106, you would come up north again on Madison. You'd be on the west side of Madison, and then you would get to 117th, and then you would come over to Park. You go over one.
This is sounding a little weird now.
No, it's not a perfect rectangle, but so
it's not a perfect rectangle.
No, but the furthest east can go to 3rd Avenue.
Okay.
So the distance from 3rd Avenue.
The majority of the majority of the area is still Central Harlem.
Central Harlem.
Okay, and it has pieces of East Harlem.
Yes, and West Harlem, and
well, West Harlem is what I think of as Central Harlem.
No, because the farthest west it can go is Amsterdam Avenue. So from 130th to 141st Street, that would be on Amsterdam Avenue. You know, west.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But
just for the sake of understanding, because I don't want to like freak people out with some sort of strange geographic lesson, but a huge part of your district, the district that you're running for, the district that you live in and are running for, is what historically we refer to as Central Harlem.
Right. So District 9 encompasses, well, Central Harlem, all of it, is in District 9.
Okay. All right.
And then parts of West Harlem is in District 9 since they did the rezoning, the redistricting, not rezoning. And parts of East Harlem now is in Council District 9 as well.
Now, as you know, New York City certainly, but Manhattan certainly is a series of communities, and each community has very specific needs. The needs in the Upper West Side is well, the Upper West Side where, or the Upper East Side is somewhat different from those of the Harlem community, and you're representing your district, but you still have to get along with other council members to get things done, and you have to accommodate other districts to get things done. What would you say would be the most pressing need in your district, the district that you're running for?
Well, the most pressing need right now is trying to stop the mayor from implementing fully his NYCHA Next Generation Plan.
Okay, so you're talking housing.
Public housing.
Public housing.
So the mayor has this agenda. It's called NYCHA next generation. And in this plan, they have it to privatize a certain amount of public property in order to sustain the majority of it. But even that, even if it were 1/3, it would still affect 200,000 people. And when I read the plan, I saw the plan as not really respecting longevity in a community. It really seems to be a gentrification maneuver. So it's going to cause a lot of displacement, and it's not in the best interest of blacks and Latinos. So I've already spearheaded a counter plan which factors in everything the mayor is saying. We have to do this because of, in this counter proposal, we address the because. And we can do this without displacement and without privatization. So the mayor has this plan. He got it in his hand. And, we're sending him a strong message. If he doesn't pull this plan off the table, we're looking to get him out.
Now, Mayor de Blasio is a Democratic mayor who got us substantial support from both the black and Latino community. Are you saying that you are less than satisfied with some of the decisions he's made in terms of housing? Is this the only issue that you would like to have the mayor address? Grade the mayor. Grade the mayor. Democrat to Democrat. Poor black person who is representing a community of blacks and certainly blacks and browns who are facing specific challenges, housing being one of them.
The East Harlem rezoning is another one. The East Harlem rezoning, that's another one of his plans, and that calls for the rezoning of blocks, major blocks, where properties can go as high as 35 stories, mainly luxury housing. So these type of agendas, they don't do anything to benefit blacks and Latinos, because when you talk about luxury housing, the ratio that they're dealing with, okay, even with his mandatory inclusionary housing plan that got passed a little while ago, 75-25, it's no different really than an 80-20, but what it does, in our communities, we cannot have luxury housing outpacing moderate and low-income housing, and that's what it is. And so we have to set a new narrative. The narratives of what these people, who are running our city are coming up with, we have to scrap these narratives, come up with our own that benefit us as a community. We're talking about staying in our communities. We have people living in their neighborhoods 15, 20 years, 30 years. That's valuable. That longevity has value. So for them to to just get up and leave and be forced to go somewhere else, that's not fair. And so we just have to come up, we need to be at the table, discussing many of these things, but the way they structure these conversations are already, planned before we get to the table. So they say, this is what we want to do, and come on to the table and talk about it. But you've already planned it and put certain things in place before, we even came to the table. I wouldn't give him a total F, though, because he's come through with the charter school problem. He's not letting charter schools just run amok. And some of the arrangements between public school children and charter schools, they were deplorable under Bloomberg. And I will give...
Be specific.
Well, PS 149, for example, on Malcolm X Boulevard. You have the district children learning they were learning in stairwells, bathrooms, closets, very overcrowded rooms, 4 different types of instructions going on in a particular classroom at the same time. Eating lunch, 10 o'clock in the morning, all to make cozy Success Academy. So Success Academy, they can get a classroom space.
And Success, for those who don't know, Success Academy is?
Well, people, I guess, would know it by Harlem Success Academy.
Well, I'm sure most people, and certainly, hopefully, most people who are interested in voting for the primary in Harlem should know what's going on in their own community.
Right.
But for the 1 or 2 who just started voting, the young people who just
Yes.
started voting, specifically, what is Success Academy, who runs it, and where is it located?
Well, Success Academy is run by a woman by the name of Eva Moskowitz. And it first came to Harlem.
She endorsed Trump and then sort of unendorsed him because recently, is that correct?
I'm not familiar.
Okay, all right, fine.
But I know
fine,
that I think one of the people that sit on her board,
Right. And what I said has nothing to do with anything. Tell me who, right.
So
right.
anyway, so the way
And that's a charter, that's
a charter school.
a charter school.
is an alternative.
Okay. To public education.
Yes.
All right.
And it allows, well,
And it's funded how?
it's funded, well, it's funded a lot by public dollars, but it could also get private funding. You know, they get the same amount of dollars for their instruction and their supplies.
Okay, so it's funded in much the same way Trump wants to fund his wall.
Well, no, the city, the state.
Public dollars.
The state funds it.
Public dollars plus corporations.
Yes.
Like
money-
public dollars in Mexico. It's how he wants it. Well, that's what he says. You know, I'm not saying whether it's practical or not.
But it was already happening before
right.
Trump came into office.
Well, I'm not talking about Trump per se. I'm talking about how charter schools are funded, and it is used. It does use public dollars.
It does.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now, if you give a charter school a building, which the state law allows this now, they can get the building space for free. If you don't have it where you're putting a value on that space, then if they're getting this, like if, for example, if in our package, a district school will get the, I'm just going to give you a figure. You know, I have to look at the numbers.
That's fine. That's
but
fine.
Let's say $17,000.
Right.
In that $17,000 is going to cover books, other supplies, instruction, and money for the use and occupancy of that building, because the building is owned by the city. So if a charter school is getting $17,000 just for books, supplies, and instruction, and they're getting the building space free, technically, if you put a value to it, which there is a value, when the district school gets money for the use and occupancy, that's $2,700, give or take, you know, for each child, for the use and occupancy of that building. So if you're giving the charter school child the space free, you got to put the same value on that. So technically, they're getting more money for their education than a public school child.
Okay, so for the vast majority of people who put their children in public schools, and that's the majority of people by a lot, they are paying for, they're helping to finance private education for a select few so that they could get a better education. At least that's what it is on paper. Is
Well, people,
is that an oversimplification or?
Well, I mean, that's the reality of it, because people are very individualistic and selfish. So as long as their child is getting the best education, they don't care about a district school child. And the
Well, I'm
arrangements.
kind of talking about the system's approach more than whether or not a specific parent is selfish or not. I'm talking about the system itself is designed to facilitate a more selfish parent
that,
with my money.
That, as well as if the charter school takes over the school building. Remember, the school building is still owned by the city and controlled by the DOE. So if a charter school takes over or co-locates in a public school building and eventually takes over, and so now you have the district child or children no longer in that building, the city could very well take the charter school and put it somewhere else, and now you have a vacant public school building for new gentry.
This is my question. Building notwithstanding, is the only time public monies go to charter schools is when there's a co-location, or do they get public monies irrespective of co-location?
They get monies irrespective.
Okay, okay. So the building is more insult to injury than injury itself.
Those who do co-locate,
right?
That they get an advantage over the district school child, because they're not putting a value on that co-location. Now, let's just say that the state gives them money for their use and occupancy. Unless you adjust the dollars to make it where everyone gets the same amount of money for, the education, it's going to be inequitable.
Okay, so initially you said you would not give the mayor a total F, although you have concerns with his approach to housing. I'm understating. You can certainly use your own words. I'm just. And then you said you wouldn't give him a total F because of his approach to the charter school situation.
Right. He did. He fixed that problem at PS 149. So now the children, they're not living. I mean, they're not learning in that deplorable environment. So he made good on. I did prompt him on this because.
So you won't give him a total F because and I have a way with words. I have a way with words. Sometimes people get mad at me, but it seems like the only thing stopping you from giving a total F, unless you're going to bring something else up that I don't know about right now, is that there were children that were almost like learning in the bathroom, and
they weren't just almost, they were.
And he fixed that one small other than that, it would be a total F.
No. They were in the stairwells learning.
Right.
They were overcrowded.
Right.
So you can't have one school utilizing the space differently,
right,
than another school. So if one school says that smaller classroom size matters, and we want for our children classrooms that only go up to maybe no more than 25 students. You can't make a public school child go into a classroom with 35 children. If they're like sharing the building. So you have one school utilizing the space with 25 children in a classroom, and then the other school system, they have to utilize the space with 35 children. That's not a comparative use of the building.
Okay.
And it violates state law because the state law specifically states that you can't have that type of arrangement.
Let me ask you this. One school, one anomaly if it is indeed an anomaly, that's what we're going to have to figure out right here, or at least address it. Notwithstanding, again, we're talking Harlem. So no matter how much they sing and yell about whether or not a charter school may or may not be effective, the vast majority of the Harlem population are people who struggle day to day economically. Mostly either working poor or barely working. Which means that for all intents and purposes, the vast majority of the people in the Harlem community, the district that you represent, black and brown children, their issues are public school related issues. How do you feel about
that?
As opposed to private schools?
But you qualified it by saying problem.
Well, the issue of education.
Okay.
The issue of education is more about how do we address this in the public school than it is in the private school if you're talking about the districts. This specific district, not the districts, this specific district. How do you feel about charter schools? How do you feel about public education? What do you think some of the problems and solutions you would like to see implemented in terms of addressing the educational needs of the people in the district that you hope to represent?
Well, the equitable arrangement, I'm not against charter schools, okay? I think that a parent does have a choice. But you can't have one school thrive at the expense of another, see? And so...
But that's not what I'm talking about. That would assume that that everybody has a choice between charter and not charter, and that it's an equal amount of people. The choice is 50-50. I'm not talking about a choice that's 50-50. I'm talking about a choice where it's more 90-10.
Yes, because of the...
and the 90 has no choice.
Well, because of the enrollment.
And you're representing the 100% of the community. You're not looking at it like it's a 50-50 choice.
No, because there's a greater demand for
Correct.
charter schools. I mean, you know, it is what it is, and that's the reality, that there's a greater demand for children to go to charter schools, you know? And because of that, the charter school, they have a lottery system, how they take in their students. But it's greatly manipulated. What
if Barack Obama got his education through a lottery? What if Albert Einstein got his education through a lottery? What if Stephen Hawking got his education through a lottery? What would the world be? Is that equitable? If the smartest and most talented people have to engage in a crapshoot for a quality
Right.
education, how does that serve the greater good?
Well, certainly, we have to come up with, you know, that's a very good, you know, issue that you bring up. So we would have to, now that you brought it up, we have to take this into consideration. So there needs to be some type of pre-testing, you know, done to see if, you know, these gems are lurking in our community. And if they are, you know, we certainly need to extract them, you know, and give them the best opportunity to flourish. So I won't say that I have an answer for every single thing. And
No, I'm just putting questions out there. That's my job.
I will do, by me going out and talking to the people, because I do that even now, I would be totally accessible, you know, within a certain degree. And you have to listen to the people to see what, what you're missing, because you're not going to get everything. And so, but that is something that, I was a parent leader at my daughter's middle and high school. So it gave me an advantage to sort of like really learn what's going on with the DOE, how a parent should be involved in the education of his or her child. And I really made a difference. That one little chairmanship of my daughter's middle school, I basically shook up the whole school system throughout the city, because I was successful in doing what I was doing in my district, and people started using me or coming to me to help them with their problems in other areas throughout the city, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and I was teaching them how to defend their rights. And so I made a difference, but now it's sort of like I'm not in position anymore. It's like the president, Obama, he's out of the loop. He's out of the loop, so you don't have standing anymore. But
the loop is out of control. He doesn't need standing.
So, but everything's about, I'm not totally against co-location.
Okay.
It has to be fair.
Okay.
Equitable. And the use of the building or the space cannot be an incomparable use.
Okay.
And we have that a lot of times. Now, de Blasio did fix that with quite a few schools in Harlem. I know the most egregious was PS 149. And so that got fixed. Wadley and FDA 2, I know Mr. Afriye is pretty protective of his school, so he's not going to stand for his school going through that. We have a new principal now at Wadley, but there's rumor, again, about closing the middle school down. And I talked with some people from the DOE, some of my inside connections, and I told them, I don't want that. So they're going to give me an opportunity to talk to the principal and find out what's going on, because Wadley's very dear to many people's heart in Harlem. It's like our, it's not as stellar as it should be, but we love Wadley. Wadley represents, Harlem, and we don't want to see it closed down in any fashion. So whether they truncate it or shut it down, we don't want that. So I'm going to go to the school, since I was a strong parent leader there, and find out what's going on and see if I can come up with a plan to get the performance level up. So whether I'm city council or not, I have a passion for the school. I coached track and field at the school. So it's just a school that, I feel attached to. So I'm going to go and try to troubleshoot the problem there.
We're sitting in Manhattan Neighborhood Network studio.
Yes.
And all of my producers back there are eminent producers.
Doing a great job.
They're extraordinary.
They are.
I mean, they are multi-talented and extraordinary. But the point is that a lot of people forget about the word access when they talk about Manhattan Cable. They see cameras, they see opportunity, but they don't understand access. And the reason why my producers are extraordinary is because they had access to technology and equipment that they otherwise was deprived of all of their lives. And when everyone has access, the pecking order tends to rearrange.
That's right.
As long as you're the kid with the only computer, that in and of itself allows you to denigrate other people who don't have access to the same technology and make them feel better about themselves, and it gives you a place of superiority. The moment everyone gets access to the same technologies, the pecking order changes. If you create a school system, whether it's charter schools or any place else, where a certain specific group of people has access to technologies and opportunities that the masses of people don't have access to, what happens is that everyone who is part of that privileged society tends to think of themselves as superior to those who don't have access. How do we get access to all of our children so that indeed that pecking order changes, our economics change, our educational background changes, and not only can we service our community, but we are an asset to this planet? How do we do that?
You have to think about empowering people. You have to give them self-determination, and that has to be the order of the day. Empower your community. So
I play piano. Self-determination ain't going to help me play piano if I don't have access to a piano.
but empowering you will.
Okay,
So-
good.
but self-determining-
I had to get you to
but
be
self-determining
specific.
is allowing you to empower yourselves.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so we are talking
Yes,
about
for sure, yes,
tangible
yes.
access to things that you can empower yourself with.
So, you know, I'm multifaceted. I've organized the vendors on 125th Street. We now have the Harlem Street Merchants. They have separate IDs that, you know, show they belong to this association, and they serve a purpose now, the ones who are a part of the membership. So people, they question me, how can you do that? How do you get around consumer affairs? Well, I did. But you have to find, you know, where
What would be the issue with consumer affairs
Well,
as it
because
relates to the vendors?
they may not have an actual license or
Okay.
permit
Okay.
to vend.
Okay.
But within the law, I found that I could create this within the law, and now there's no real threat. I'm hoping to create this model where it can be used citywide, but they have to serve a purpose within the law, and if they're serving this purpose, then they can bypass consumer affairs, but they have to serve this purpose. So, but again, this was empowering the vendors, and so that's what I'm about, empowering people, including them, not excluding them, giving them a sense of duty, and making them accountable. Someone in the debate earlier, when we were
Right.
tape.
For those who don't know, because this is live and you'll see the debate at some time in the near future, they had a debate here with people. Was it people running for district council, or was it
council, city council.
City council.
So it was the 9th
district council. I mean city council.
Yeah.
Julius participated in that debate. So you'll be seeing that in the very near future, I'm sure.
So one of the things that one of the candidates brought up was that our block parties are being shut down. And, you know, every community of color pretty much has a history of block parties. And so the block parties, they're either being shut down altogether or maybe cut short or whatever. But, and I kind of chimed in on this subject, but you can't have a block party if the people who are giving the block party aren't policing themselves. So if you let an interloper or an intruder come in on your space and you can't control him or her, see, then there's a problem. And so that's what's been happening. People who are troublemakers, they come to these block parties and they start trouble. And so next thing you know it, the police have
Does
to
that
come.
happen a lot?
It's happened a few times. And that's why the block parties have been shut down. So if I was given the privilege of having a block party from 11 o'clock a.m. to 8 p.m., okay? But now it gets out of hand. Someone gets shot, stabbed, there's shooting. The police are going to say, well, we gave you the opportunity. And
yeah,
so
but
do you have to be told where your power is?
That's a bit unfair because
No, it's not.
Because
I used to give school dances.
Because that is not a situation that is specific to block parties. They just had a rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, where they allowed people to come in, and the people that they allowed a permit to come in from out of town came in by the thousands, spewing hate, and there were other groups that came that had nothing to do with protests. Now, if you look at protests that Al Sharpton has, and this is not an endorsement of Sharpton or a rebuke of Sharpton. This is just to say that his demonstrations, by and large, are nonviolent. Whereas when you bring people in, no matter what the circumstances is, it's very difficult to maintain that everyone or everything doesn't have intentions other than what your intentions are. So that's going to be the case in block parties. That's going to be the case in political protests. That's going to be the case in prayer meetings like Dylan Roof shot up a church. No matter where you go, if it's open to the public, there is a possibility that someone or a group of someones is going to come in and make a mess of what you're doing.
Well, this is, the block party is distinguishable from the other examples you gave. A block party, someone on the block, you know, a block association or a block captain or whatever, gets a permit. The street is closed off.
Right.
It's primarily for people who live on the block and their guests. Now,
I don't think that's
yes,
the
it
case.
is. Yes, it is.
That's what it says?
I mean, they don't, it doesn't allow the prohibition of other people using the street to get through. Okay, so there are easement laws that are in place that I don't have to walk, I can't walk, you know, I'm being stopped from walking through the street because you have a block party. If I have to take the shortest route to where I gotta go, I can walk through your block.
Yeah, I've never heard of a block party that was only for the people of that block. I mean, anybody who wanted to come in.
No, that's not true at all. Because if we have food and so forth, it's not. We're not feeding the whole world.
I've never been to a block party. I'm 66. I've never been to a block party where anybody couldn't come and play, and you know, whether or not someone gave you free food who made food is a personal issue. But I have never been to a block party where anybody couldn't bring their children to play and enjoy the music and have a good time.
You, for example, you know, now if you're talking about public housing.
No, I'm talking about tenement blocks like Huntfoy 3rd Street between Huntfoy 1st Street between. Every year we have a block party.
If the city is somehow involved and they bring in resources, I can see that happening. But if a block association wants to have a block party, okay, that association is responsible for maintaining peace and security. And if you're not going to do that, then the police are going to come in and they're going to like designate, you know, when it gets cut off. And that's what's been happening.
I've never been to a block party where the police weren't free to come in and dance with everybody. I mean,
no, I have never.
I have never been, and I have never been a part of the process of getting those permits, so I can't tell you definitively what you agree to or don't agree to. But I can say categorically that I have never been to a block party where anybody couldn't come in, including the police, including the mayor. As a matter of fact, we just had a block party that was I'm in what we refer to as the Lower East Side, but rich people refer to as the East Village now. And there's a person who's running for city council in my district.
What's her name?
Carlina Rivera.
Oh, okay.
And she was at the block party, and I was DJing the block party, and it indeed was the Block Association that put it together. Everybody danced. Nobody asked people what block they came from or anything like that.
Theoretically, a block association or an entity who is responsible for such block party could theoretically restrict your access to that block.
Yeah,
So-
I just
so you
never
walk-
been a
but
part of a
usually-
block party where anyone did.
I mean, if I knew you and you were doing this block party, I could walk over to you and, you know, obviously if you greet me,
Right.
I'm a guest of yours. See? So, but to not have control altogether, to let people that you don't know, you know, come inside of your domain and you don't know what's going on, you're going to have to either figure out what you're doing wrong in this day and age, and so that's what's been happening, that the people don't recognize their power. And because they don't recognize their power and no one is trying to facilitate that power, the police are going to come in and say, you know what, we're going to solve the problem. We're going to make sure that this doesn't happen again, like on 118th or one of those streets, 116th.
But my question is,
There was a big shootout.
My question is, why aren't the police welcomed and encouraged to be a part of community affairs in such a way that it's already, I mean, you're talking Harlem. There's police stations all over the place. It's almost impossible for something to, as a matter of fact, there's cameras all over the place. It's almost impossible for this type of instance to occur if the police is active and positive in the community itself. So if there's a block party where children are invited and people are getting shot, that seems to be more than simply a case of my neighbors and friends not being able to control murderers. That seems to be a case of we are underserved and we have poor relations with law enforcement to begin with, that my community is out of control. My block party is an attempt to bring community and I am getting no help.
Well,
That's what it seems like to me.
there is a distrust issue in our community. However, I did come up with a community policing program that is now titled the Neighborhood Coordinating Officer Community Policing Program. So I introduced this program in 2013. And
Wow, we're almost out of time. So you're going to have to, I got like 10 seconds. Wow, I didn't see that. This was a good interview because I didn't even know we were out of time. You're running for, say your name, tell them to vote for you,
Julius
yada yada.
Which camera?
That camera right
Tajiddin,
there, number 4.
Council District 9. You want someone that's not afraid to lead, who will stick up for his people, stick up for his community, and get things done. I have a stellar track record of accomplishments. It speaks for itself. You want someone in that position. Thank you. September 12th. Thank you.
Bingo, we out of time. I'll see you next week. We out of here. Peace. Thank you, brother. All right.
Yeah, I should have brought up that community.